Hello friends, welcome to your only channel Times of Coding. Today in our series Scala Express, we will learn closures. Scala closure session will help you to well define your methods and leave redundant information behind. In previous session, we have covered how to shorten functions, function placeholders, partially applied functions. In this session, we will cover Scala closures, asterisk role with function parameters, and tail recursion. So far, we have seen bound and free types of variable while defining functions. So in this example, I'm defining one function which will take x as int type, and this x will have an addition of 10 in its value. So this is called bound variable and this is called defined literal. So this bound variable will come from this function definition. In case of free variable, here I'm defining one variable called extra, and here I'm defining one function where I'm keeping similar definition, and here I'm adding a plus extra. In this case, extra is our free variable which has not defined inside this function definition, and a is bound variable. So if you see this example, we have defined this function in a closed term. That means every definition was within the function only. But here our definition is open terms, and when we execute this function, the value we will get out of this function will be closure. That's how we will be calling this function. I'm writing add extra, and as argument I'm passing 10. Since it was already having extra as 1, so it will give us 11 here. What if the value of that extra variable will get changed? Will it have any impact in our closure definition? I would say no, because your extra variable was free type of variable. When we give a call to add extra function, we will be passing 10 in its bound type of parameter, and then we will get outcome. The outcome we get, we call it closure literal. That means we are closing the computation there. So here if you see, only one extra variable we have defined and then we were calling. Now what if we define some collection of values and then we iterate through? So in that case, what will be the closure? To explain that case, I will drive you to my next example. Here I'm keeping one function called doIncrement. DoIncrement is having one parameter extra and it is int type. Since I was using a Scala worksheet, this is all implicitly applicable. That's why it is coming in gray. Then I'm keeping the same definition which we have seen above, and then I'm doing the same operation inside the definition. Now if you notice here, we are having two braces, one for extra and one for a. So here we are defining increment 10 function, and similarly I'm defining for 990. What they will do is they will call doIncrement function here with 10 and with this 990. When we call this function like this, it has got 10 value already, and now we are passing 10 again. The value which we have passed earlier, that will go inside the bound type of parameter, and the value we are passing at runtime, that will go as the free type parameter here. So that means 10 plus 10, it should give us 20. Now in next call, I'm doing the similar operation. Here this 990 will go inside the a, and this 990 will go inside the extra. While defining function, if you declare any value as an argument, in that case this value go to the bound type of parameter, and here it is going in the free type of parameter. So we will get one closure out of this computation, and then next time when we call 990, we will get closure again with computation of this method. Both time our computation is same, but since our arguments are different, that's why we will get difference in output also. Now what if we would like to keep list of argument? So for that I'm defining one function here called logging, and logging is having arguments a string with asterisk. This asterisk, just like Java, it gives you indication to the interpreter that we will be expecting args which is having a type of a string more than one argument. From this function we will not be returning anything, so I'm keeping a unit type, and then I'm defining one for loop which will iterate through all the args and it will give us the debug messages. When you execute, your interpreter will create a function for you like this. Since we have defined with asterisk, we can call like logging times of coding everything in one string, and it will give us this outcome. And in fact we can give multiple numbers of arguments as well, and here we will get times of coding because we have used println, so it will print one debug message in one line. That's how we define variable list argument in Scala. Now here everything was a string value. What if we wanted to use some collection? With collection we need to take care of the type. So while calling the function, you can call logging and then you can pass your input as your collection, and with this you need to type colon to mention the type, and here you need to mention placeholder asterisk. When you call like this, every value inside the collection will go one after another to this function as argument. In fact, the same we will experience while doing the practical of our examples. So next topic is the tail recursive topic, where our function will be calling own self with changes in argument. To think about tail recursive as real-time example, timer is the best example of tail recursive. When we set timer in our mobile for let's say 5 minutes, every time it got a call itself with -1 value, and when it reaches to 0, it gives us alarm. Here I'm talking specifically about the mobile phone. So in this example, I'm defining tailing function with one parameter called a, and this function will get us int type of value. First I'm printing value which we are passing inside, and then we have got one condition called if a is equal to 0, it should throw us an exception called got tail. That means if you're taking example of your timer in a mobile or watch, here you will give the indicator to play the alarm. Otherwise, you will be recursively calling the tailing function again with -1. And if you're designing one timer, you can keep sleep for 1 second. So in every 1 second, it will call to itself, and as an argument in this function, what you need to write is the total number of seconds for which you would like to keep timer. And now I am calling tailing function with 3. So after execution, it will get us 3, 2, 1, 0. And when this condition matches, it will throw us an exception as expected. Tail recursive function in Scala is the optimized operation. So that means when we execute likewise function, machine JVM won't build new stack trace frames, calling recursively. In fact, all the call which we are placing from here as a recursive call, they will end up in a same stack frame. It is just calling same function. So basically it will just give a call to same function number of times, and then once it got completed or once it matched the expectation as a is equal to 0, it will throw that exception. So this is the optimized version of recursive functions. So this is how Scala gives us optimized form of recursive function. So in theory we have covered closure, asterisk role with function parameters, and tail recursion. Now it's time to do some practical. So for that we will open IntelliJ and we'll create a package called closure. In this closure, we will create a Scala worksheet called example today. The first example which we have seen is x plus 10, and we will define without function literal, and this will take an argument int type, and then it will do the addition with 10. So now we will execute it. Okay, so here our function got defined. In this function, x is a bound variable, and this function definition is having closed terms. So now we will see open term function. This extra variable we are defining here, which is a free variable for this add extra function, and then we are having similar definition a plus extra. Here a is a bound variable as we have seen earlier, and extra is a free variable. So Scala is fine. When we execute it, add extra function has been defined. In order to call that function, we simply need to type add extra, and then we will pass some random value, let's say 9. So we got 10 because this 1 was already there with extra. The value which we are getting here, this is the closure. And why we are calling this value as closure? Because it is closing the bound and free value open terms. That's why we're calling it closure. Now similarly, I'll change the value of extra now, and then I'll call it again. So here I was making 990 in extra, and then I'm calling add extra with 10. So now we will get 1000. Here we have seen just one time call, and now we will see how to define function reference to have first bound variable value and then next free variable value. So here we are defining one function to increment. It is taking extra as bound variable, and a we are defining here as int type, and this will do this and this will do this computation. So here we are defining function which is do increment and we are passing 10. So this 10 as an argument will go for a variable, and when we actually give it the call to closure function, we will get extra argument. So here I'm defining two closure functions, do increment 10 and do increment 990, and I'm calling these two functions as well. So here 10 plus 10 we are getting 20, and here 990 plus 990 we are getting 1980. So the value which we are getting here, this is coming because we are closing the terms. We are closing the computation terms. Since we are closing it, this value will called as closure. Now the next example which we have seen was asterisk 1, and here we are defining one function called logging. Then we are defining parameters, string type, and then we are keeping asterisk with string value. So that means it will accept n number of arguments as a args. Here we are iterating over all, and then we are keeping as debug messages on console. So now, okay, it got defined. Now we will call this function. So first I'll call it with one string value only, times of coding, and then we will make this times of coding value in multiple string like this. So now we will get one string value at one line. So that means asterisk was doing its job. We can pass one value or we can pass multiple value since we are using asterisk in our parameter. Now next example we have seen, what if we are using some collection type. So here I'm defining array and I'm keeping same value times of coding. Now when we are calling the same function again, I'll give argument as input r, and then we will define the type. So here I'm keeping placeholder and asterisk. So basically what this will do for us is it will pick one element from the collection at one time, that means times first, and then it will call the logging function. So now we will see. Okay, so it has called 3 times, first with times of coding. After this example, we discussed about tail recursion. So to explain that tail recursion function, I'm writing one function here called tailing. It is having parameter a, int type, and it will return also int value. First I'm keeping the debug message, whatever we are getting here, and then I'm keeping one condition. In that condition, if a value matches to 0, we will throw an exception called got tail. Otherwise, we will simply give it a recursive call with -1 value. Okay. So after execution, our function has been defined. Now it's time to call that function. So I would like to call with 3 as argument, and here is the tailing function name. Okay. So it printed us 3, 2, 1 and 0, and when condition 0 matches, it throws us an exception called got tail as expected. So in this session, we have covered closures, asterisk role with function parameters, and tail recursion. I hope you liked today's session. You can subscribe, like, share, and comment. Thank you. Have a good day.